Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope everyone out there is having a great day as we, take you out of it with a little bit of Computer America. And of course, I'm your host, Ben Crossman. Let's see, we have so much going on, and unfortunately, a last-minute schedule change where, one of our networks, don't worry, we're going to have everything up and running after the show, and you'll be able to find the show everywhere. And of course, we are still live, thanks to IRN, but of course, we'll have everything sorted out, but our guest will not be able to join us today. So, you'll see that in the show notes, we have indicated that Project FANchise, not franchise, but FANchise, was scheduled to be on with us, but unfortunately, we will have to, reschedule Mr. Sohrob Farudi. And we'll have him on here in the near future and talk all about his great app and as a service, and really takes fantasy football to the next level. So, and we'll of course fix all that after the show. But in the meantime, we're going to take this Friday, and we're going to take this opportunity when we don't have a guest to kind of take it easy and to, go over some news stories, because over the past couple days, we've had some great interviews that have obviously ran long, and we have not been able to get to as much computer and technology news as we would have liked to. So we're going to take this opportunity to, go over some of the big ones over the past week and catch us up. So, with that being said, we of course have, everything that you need to know about the show over at computeramerica.com. So regardless of what happens, you can of course find us over at our website, and you'll find the show notes with links to any and everything that has to do with today's show. Also, while you're there, be sure to check out the social media contests, which, by the way, we will have a winner today. We will announce their name live on the air, and we will be able to give away a Logitech M720 Triathlon mouse. That's right, great mouse. And also, while you're there, be sure to check out the live video stream, where you can not only listen to Computer America, but you can watch Computer America, and that can also be found on YouTube, as well as, of course, YouTube Live. All right, so with all of that said, why don't we just jump into computer and technology news? Because again, we have a number of different stories that we didn't get to over the week, and a lot of very, very cool ones. So here we go, computer and technology news. All right, so I think for our first story that we're going to get to, not that one, but I think for our first story that we're going to get to, why don't we talk about, and I think I have it right here. Let me just make sure I have it in the right place. So, yeah, here we go. Televisions, there's a lot of things that a lot of different companies do right. And it's kind of hard to differentiate yourself in a market that is so figured out. It's a puzzle that, for televisions, you want to make sure that it's crystal clear. You want to make sure that it's, large, and you want to make sure that it has, great contrast, great colors, and things like that. Televisions are a solved puzzle. But, well, we have a company here that is trying to push the limits on what we think of as a television. And asterisk, this is not going to be for everyone, at least yet. This is, this is mind-boggling how luxurious this is. So here we go. This coming to us from a website called Lux Attic. Lux Attic. And television manufacturer CSeed pushes the limits on screens with 262-inch 4K widescreen television. I don't think that sunk in. A 262-inch 4K television. Although I think at 262 inches, 4K really doesn't mean as much. But there you have it. So the magicians at CSeed, which by the way, I've never even heard of them. But here we have it. At CSeed, have managed to develop the world's largest 4K widescreen. And it's a jaw-dropping device that they call the CSeed 262, obviously for the amount of inches. And bragging about a world record diagonal length of 262 inches with a width of 20 feet. Check that out. And of course, a height of 8.5 feet. So, you know, and for anyone out there listening and not watching the video portion, we of course have pictures of it up, but it's a 20-foot television by an 8-foot television. So, you know, this thing is easily, you know, 2.5 times as wide as it is tall. So not your traditional television by any means. So they said that this incredible TV also features a motorized custom fabric cover that can fold away at the push of a button. So, you know, in case, you know, you don't want that TV just sitting around, you'd rather have, oh, I don't know, a piece of artwork or something. Well, there you have it. So the acclaimed Austrian-based electronics brand has earned worldwide recognition thanks to its innovative outdoor entertainment systems and teaming up with the Porsche design for the CSeed 201 outdoor TV. So, and here we have the gigantic CSeed 262 is packing a 4K LED TV with black LED technology for higher contrast, ultra high definition, and a dynamic picture with a color spectrum that's far beyond what you'd get with conventional televisions. Although nothing they said there really, you know, screams this is better than OLED technology or things like that. So this is probably one step below. But it does feature an ultra high 800 nits brightness. So, you know, pretty bright television. So an integrated 4K media server and 6 integrated high-end speakers will surely help you appreciate movie premieres at your home. And let's face it, if you have this kind of money to throw around, you're probably doing movie like premieres, not just like, you know, oh, it's on Netflix. No, you're doing premieres at your house. So they say that, and the author says that I believe popcorn, a cool drink, or a smooth glass of wine are in order, and around $500,000 in your bank account, because that's how much the television cost. $500,000. My goodness. And again, if you're watching the video portion, you can see the pictures here. And, you know, if I had $500,000 to burn on a television, I can't think of many others that will, you know, be as eye-catching as this one. So there you have it. CSeed 262, $500,000 later, and it too can be yours. Man, what a television. What television. All right, so that one was fun. Why don't we move on to something a little bit more heady? And let's see. All right, how about this one? So I know we don't get into politics here a lot, and for good reason, because, well, you're never going to make anyone happy, and there's a lot of bad journalism going on. But, well, social media sites such as Facebook, such as Google, they have taken a stance against what they call, well, fake news. You know, it's clickbait. It's news articles that are designed to really appeal to a target audience, ensure that they click it, ensure that they go to the website, that they follow any kind of, that they follow any kind of links that they could put in there. Quality and truth be damned, as long as the headline is catchy, then, you know, then they kind of percolate throughout social media. And, you know, European Union, as well as the United States, and a lot of other organizations are looking into how to stop fake news from spreading. Well, Facebook has announced how they're going to do it, and they just started doing it. So this is coming from Chloe Ferrand, and this is from The Independent. And Facebook is finally starting to hide posts from people who share spam and fake news. So, Facebook is due to start hiding posts from people who spam users' news feeds with clickbait and sensationalized or misinformative articles. Where in a statement, the social media giant said that it was making the update to reduce low-quality links in users' newsfeed. Facebook said it carried out research which showed that a small group of users had routinely shared vast amounts of public posts per day, which effectively spam people's news feeds. So, just an overview, of course, of what they just said is that they're going to find the people. And, I think we all have at least one person on our friends list on Facebook who does this, who they share, conspiracy theories. They share, kind of questionable material, things that I think a more skeptical mind or, a less skeptical mind, let's face it, would kind of say, well, that's just plain not true. Facebook, I guess, has realized that it's just that one user. It's just those one few users on everyone's friends list that seems to be spreading this and giving the rise to, or at least giving the validation to so much of this. So instead of, going after the publications, instead of going after, trying to delete links and shut down freedom of speech, instead they're just going to, it sounds like, tighten up their restrictions on spam and low quality links, clickbait articles, things like that. Those are going to count more so towards spam type content, and Facebook is going to start cracking down on that. And they say that as a result, Facebook said it would deprioritize posts being shared from those accounts. So it's not just those one or two links. I mean, if Uncle Jim decides that, he needs to spam all these articles, everyone needs to know about the conspiracies, and they need to know about, about the truth that isn't being told. Well, then when he decides to post a picture of his new car that he just got or something along those lines, even that post will be deprioritized. In essence, kind of leaving them, lonely on a social media site. So the new policy will only apply to links for individual articles and domains. So Facebook said it is aimed to make people's news feeds more informative. It said, quote, by taking steps like this to improve the news feed, we're able to surface more stories that people find informative and reduce the spread of problematic links due to clickbait, sensationalism, and misinformation. All right. So, meanwhile, Facebook is also reported to be rolling out a new discovery tab for Messenger that will make it easier for people to find and engage with brands and chatbots. So, not as interesting. But, yeah, there you have it. So, the last part's more about the business side of Facebook, of course. But maybe, hey, no judgments, but maybe it's you that shares all of those articles that needs to get people to pay attention, that needs to wake those sheeple up. Well, you may find your post deprioritized and less people listening to you. And it could be due to Facebook's new algorithm. All right. So, Facebook, they're trying to combat a problem, and we'll see how well it works, but this is certainly a problem that needs tackling. All right. Let's see. We have a couple, and by a couple I mean a lot. We have a lot more stories, and all right, let's do this one. So I know we just did one about a high-end television, and I'm just kind of in the mood to hear about crazy technology that no one's probably going to buy, yet is super, super cool. And I think this one falls into that category, falls squarely into that category, where this is coming from Engadget, Mr. Chris Valeska, and Camera Maker Red is building a phone with a holographic screen. You heard that right, holographic screen. And it's doubly named the Hydrogen 1. We have we of course have a promo shot of it. And by the way, everyone, I know you're super worried about it. And yes, it does have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. I know that was your biggest concern, but here we go. So we've seen the venerable Kodak and Polaroid brands slapped onto smartphones before, but Red, makers of the pricey digital cinema cameras, and yeah, Red, they make the they make those 8K, 4K, $1 million movie cameras. Like, they're really, really expensive. Well, looks like they're looking at something a little bit more consumer facing, and emphasis on a little bit more, because this is still, half again as expensive as the most expensive iPhone on the market, which is often referred to as the most expensive phone on the market. But the company just revealed its plans to release the Hydrogen One, a high-powered, unlocked Android smartphone. Yeah, unlocked smartphone, with prices starting at an eye-watering $1,200. That's right. So starting at, there's of course more, and they say that gets you an aluminum phone with crazy-looking grips, while the titanium finish will set you back an extra $400. So this thing just went from $1,200 up to a maximum of $1,600. And again, that is an unlocked phone. So, no chance of a carrier subsidy or anything like that. You pay for that out of pocket, and then you go on down to your local carrier and try to get them to give you a plan on the phone. So, yep, $1,600 and more. And here's the crazy part. Said that if Red can actually deliver what it promises, the Hydrogen One may actually be worth the asking price. That's a tall order. So, the company's bombastic press release claims that the phone will pack a 5.7-inch holographic display capable of displaying in normal 2D media, stereo 3D stuff, and Red's special 4-view content. And as the author rightly says, whatever 4-view content means. And that extreme display flexibility is all thanks to some sort of Red nanotechnology that the company didn't feel the need to explain in any way. A lot of hyping here. Obviously, this is something that was just announced. We have yet to see any kind of press models or review kits or anything like that. So we're kind of left in the dark. But if anyone is going to hype up their technology and then have the technology to back it up, it's probably going to be Red. So you'll also find full support for augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. So the goal was to create a phone that didn't need additional glasses or headsets to take in all this rich media. And so Red is obviously best known as the camera company, so it's a little surprising that the phone can be used to create those 4-view H4V files. That's a new file extension. And share them with others who might have the right hardware. And beyond that, though, the company says that the phone will integrate into its existing line of digital cinema cameras to act as a controller or external monitor. So if you happen to have one of those Red cameras, they only cost $300,000. If you happen to have one of those lying around, well, this should integrate nicely with it. There you have it. So they said that the phone is also modular. Part of the Hydrogen Foundation is a special data connector that allows for external add-ons to capture higher quality motion and still images. So that just screams to me right off the bat. Think, well, lenses and, things like that. So, yeah, Red is basically promising the moon here, where the company's press release does get candid at times, saying it is very clear. It very clearly states that you should not expect on-time order fulfillment after the first batch goes out, and that there's no guarantee that these prices will actually stick. They could go up, they could go down. Candor is great, but clarity would have been nice, saying that the only other thing that we really know about the phone is that it has a USB-C port, which you can see from the image, a micro SD slot for micro SD cards, and a headphone jack. And here's the author kind of giving up his his opinion on this, saying that given Red's lofty ambitions and lack of experience in building phones, it's hard not to be skeptical. Saying that the thing to remember is that the company basically came out of nowhere years back and became a serious player in cinemas along the way. And we're not expecting an Apple level success here, but the Red pedigree does give us hope that the Hydrogen One may just be more than a render and a laundry list of buzzwords. And right now, the render, I will admit, looks very industrial, looks very cool. It has, these grips, and it's aluminum and titanium, has these hex bolts. I mean, it does look very cool. But it's just a rendering. We have yet to see anything physical, and I don't know, I would have never in a million years guessed that Red, the cinematography tech giant, would try to come into, like, I'm even hesitant to say consumer, the consumer space, because you're looking at $1,200 to $1,600. That's not really consumer friendly. So, if this turns into the phone for movie makers, well, that's great. But as it stands, it's looking more and more like a gimmick. But we'll, of course, wait and see. All right. All right, so for our next story, how about we do this one? So this one was published a couple days ago. Sorry, this one was published a couple of days ago, but it's important. Because what happens in one state, what happens with one law and one policy tends to spread around, and, hey, if this is going to happen, it's going to happen like this. So, Illinois, yeah, that place. They are rather regressive on a lot of their, how do you put it? They're very regressive on their policy towards the internet. I mean, they're the first one to do some kind of Netflix streaming tax. They want to tax the heck out of internet and things like that. But hey, looks like they're finally doing something right in terms of privacy. And this coming to us from Naked Security. And the author is Lisa Voss, saying that the U.S. state of Illinois is poised to pass a law that makes it illegal to track a phone's location without the owner's consent. Of course, there's more to break down there, but hey, it's a start. Saying that the law, the Geolocation Privacy Protection Act, was passed in both houses by the state legislature last week, and it's now on the desk of Governor Bruce Rauner and ready to be signed into law, saying that the bill will make it illegal for a company to track a person's geolocation without first getting permission, saying that it sets the penalties to $1,000 plus attorney's fees and court costs for working out a person's whereabouts from their device without permission. And and they have the bit of text here, and we should probably get into the text because this has a lot of implications. Saying that geolocation information means information that 1 is not the contents of communication, 2 is generated by or derived from, in whole or in part, the operation of a mobile device, including but not limited to a smartphone, tablet, or laptop computer. And 3 is sufficient to determine or infer the precise location of that device. Pretty clear, pretty bulletproof. They can't use the stupid excuse, well, we weren't tracking Ben, we were just tracking Ben's laptop. Things like that. So you can't get away with that. My question comes into metadata, because every phone call, every time you ping a tower, a cell phone tower, or use 4G, LTE, things like that, your metadata is stored on servers elsewhere. And I'm wondering if that kind of constitutes, well, hey, geolocation and, geolocating phones and people. Because if it does, that's a very basic concept of cell phones and how they can track, connect calls, things like that. Knowing where they are is a huge part of how they work. Yeah, we'll see. So, IP addresses aren't covered by the bill. It also excludes exception for finding a missing child or to enable emergency responders to locate somebody. Breaking the new law will be considered a violation of the Consumer Fraud and Deceptive Business Practices Act. So, yeah, don't do that. But some questions of whether the bill will have any real-world impact, given that most devices, apps, and websites now ask for permission before they use location data, which is true. If you ever sign into anything like Snapchat or social media or, really almost any kind of phone, they ask you permission to use your geolocation in some instances. So let's say you take a picture on Snapchat and you want to post it to your feed, and then it automatically posts where and when you took it. That's using your phone's metadata, and it does ask you for permission before you do that. So will this have any effect? Because, hey, if they can just bury permission in terms of service or in a quick pop-up that, let's face it, if you're interested in using the service, odds are you're just going to hit that OK button regardless of what they ask you. Will this have any real-world implications? So, they said that there's plenty of times that permissions weren't sought or granted, yet still our locations have been tracked. And there are other times when our locations have been shared without our permission, simply because some developer along the line introduced location sharing by accident. And the article, they have a number of problems that have come up, including Apple, including WhatsApp, including Google Play, things like that. So even big companies have been known to stumble on this. And time will tell whether the bill will have any impact on such situations. And they say that besides penalizing those entities that fail to ask for permission, the Illinois bill would also require companies to inform users of how they plan to use the information they collect, such as sharing it with third parties or using it for internal testing, things like that. And yeah, so the article goes on for a bit more. I think that's as far as we're going to take it. But it's, it's either way, it's a win for privacy. It may not be the all-encompassing, privacy that advocates are looking for, but it's a step in the right direction, and you can't knock them for wanting to at least alert people that, hey, you are being tracked, your location is being shared, and it's being shared with XYZ corporations, people, for XYZ reasons. You can't blame them for at least wanting that much information. So if you're savvy enough, if you are paying attention, if you don't just blindly and quickly hit OK, like I know so many of us do, then at least you're going to have some sort of heads up as to what's going on. Right. So, all right. So, with that being said, we're about to hit a break, but I think for our next story, we have a couple, including Volvo, how they just purchased a flying car startup. So if you're one of those people that says, man, it's 2017, where the heck are the flying cars? Well, sounds like they are in the testing phase. We also have stories including some new features for Windows 10 and Android devices, and how 14 million of them have been infected with some malicious malware. Also on the docket, including a cell phone that makes phone calls with no battery. That's right, it's battery free. And speaking of batteries, Tesla is building the world's largest battery array in Australia. All these and more coming up here on Computer America. Stay tuned. We have a winner of our social media contest brought to you by Logitech coming up here shortly, and more computer and technology news. Stay tuned. Computer America.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
All right, and welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour, and for our before we get back to computer and technology news, we have, of course, our social media contest. We hype it up every single week. I know we haven't had as much time because, 4th of July, we had 2 days off. So why don't we announce our winner for this week's social media contest? And drum roll. Check it out. We have one now. This week's winner is Mr. Brian Lee. That's right, Brian Lee, who listens to us in Cypress, California, USA. And yeah, Brian, thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you so much for entering. Everyone out there, thousands of you that have entered, thank you so much. And hey, continue to do so, because we will, of course, be giving away prizes, for weeks and weeks to come. Of course, brought to you by, once again, Logitech. So with that being said, why don't we jump into our next story? And and by the way, if your name is not Brian Lee, everyone else, you can enter at computeramerica.com. Right there, social media contest, and there's like 8 ways to enter. So check that out. All right. So for our next story, we're going to hit up Android devices, and this is why we say keep your devices up to date. Now, you don't have to go, so far as the beta release or the alpha release of new software updates. Those are buggy, they can be problematic, and there's a word of warning to be had for not updating too quickly, because obviously bugs do happen. But the bugs that happen if you don't update are way worse than the bugs that can happen if you update too quickly. So this coming to us from CNET, and Mr. Alfred Wynn, saying that Copycat, that's the name of the malware, Copycat malware infected 14 million outdated Android devices. That's a lot. That's a lot of devices. So here we have it, saying that the virus made millions by infecting millions of people and phones with fake apps to churn out fraudulent ad revenue. So the new strand of malware called Copycat has infected more than 14 million Android devices around the world, rooting phones and hijacking apps to make millions in fraudulent ad revenue. And while the majority of victims are in Asia, which is probably why we didn't hear much about it in the US, they said that more than 280,000 Android devices in the United States were hit by the massive hack. So Google has been tracking the malware for the last 2 years and has updated Play Protect to block Copycat, but millions of victims are getting hit with third-party app downloads and phishing attacks. So there was no evidence that Copycat was distributed by Google Play, according to Checkpoint. And of course, Play Protect secures users from the family and any apps that may have been infected with copycat. And they say that, and of course they said that were not distributed via Play. So Google's saying it's affecting Google Play, but it was not affected by Google Play, as in, it was not spread using Google Play. So keeping true to its name, Copycat pretends to be a popular app that people on third-party stores like SimSimi would have more than 50 million downloads on the Google Play Store. And once downloaded, it collects data about the infected device and downloads rootkits to help root the phone, essentially cutting off its security system. And by root, that means, it's a root level access. It's, even more base than, really it's as base as the operating system. So it has full permissions. It doesn't need to, compare itself to any firewalls or any antivirus or anything like that. I mean, it just has free reign on the phone. So once it has free reign on the phone, Copycat can then download fake apps as well as hijack your device's Zygote, and saying that once it has control of the Zygote, it knows every new app that you've downloaded as well as every app that you open. So some next level monitoring.
We are all Brother Wolf.
Sorry. Okay. So, yeah, they said that Copycat is able to replace the refer ID in your app with its own. So every ad that pops up on the app will send revenue to the hackers instead of the app creators. And every now and then, Copycat will also throw in its own ad for an extra buck. And they said that there's been nearly 4.9 million fake apps installed on infected devices, displaying up to 100 million ads. That's right. So in just 2 months, they were able to rack up $1.5 million in ad revenue. That is an insane amount of ad revenue. So let's see. The majority of victims were in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Myanmar, where more than 381,000 devices were infected in Canada as well. So you have, 500,000, of course, being in the United States and Canada, but it seems like the majority of these would be in Asia. So the mobile malware spread through 5 exploits that hit the device, that hit devices running Android 5.0 and earlier, and had been discovered and patched more than 2 years ago. So yeah, this is the same thing as WannaCry. It's devices that we know we have a solution for, we know there's a problem, we have it under control, but the people who are most vulnerable, the people who are still getting hit by these, which sucks because, they're out there in the public space. Once a hack has been identified, once a software, flaw has been found, they publish them in security reports to let everyone know. So that everyone can develop patches, so that everyone can develop, fixes for the security threats. But if you never update, then everyone knows about it, and now you're unsecure to something that everyone knows about. It's really bad. So, yep, please do update your phones as soon as possible, and don't be like one of these 14 million Android devices. There you have it. So, I think, a little bit of doom and gloom is always fun on a Friday. So, why don't we pick up on, all right, how about this one? The wonders of science. And I think we all are familiar with CERN, what they do, and, they, some of their most famous projects include the Large Hadron Collider, the thing that found, the Bose-Higgs, the Higgs boson particle. Wow, I mixed that up. There you go. The Higgs boson particle, the God particle, and well, when you run that many experiments and when you have that much data, you need a lot of space to store that data. But then there's also the question, how much data do they actually have? Well, now we have an answer. And this coming to us from phys.org. And CERN data center passes the 200 petabyte milestone. 200 petabytes. We're going to get into just how much data that is, but suffice to say, that is a lot of data. And they're saying that on June 29th, 2017, the CERN DC passed the milestone of 200 petabytes of data permanently archived in its tape libraries. Let me repeat that. I want to make sure that sinks in. In its tape libraries. Yes, to store that amount of data, to store it, stably, and to store it in a manner that wouldn't cost you billions of dollars. Well, they went back to tape drives. Those things that went, out of style in the 70s and 80s are actually some of the best, highest density hard drives that you can actually find on the market. So they say that particles collide in Large Hadron Collider detectors approximately 1 billion times per second, which generate about 1 petabyte of collision data per second. However, such quantities of data are impossible for current computers to record, and they are hence filtered by the data center, where initial data reconstruction is performed and where a copy is archived to long-term tape storage. And even after the drastic data reduction performed by the experiments, the CERN DC processes on average 1 petabyte of data per day. So, this is how the milestone of 200 petabytes of data permanently archived in its tape libraries was reached. So it's not even that, 200 petabytes of, just useless data. This is like post restructuring. This is like post, as I said, reduction. And they generate 1 petabyte per second of data. So, the fact that they were able to, this would normally take, all of 200 seconds to do, but this is after, reduction. I can't imagine what it would be if they just tried to store the raw data. So, the 4 big Large Hadron Collider experiments have produced unprecedented volumes of data, and that this is due in large part to the outstanding performance and availability of the Large Hadron Collider itself. Saying that in 2016, expectations were initially for around 5 million seconds of data, while the final total was about 7.5 million seconds of data, which is a 50% increase in data, and of course, a very welcome trend, because, well, more data means that you can learn more things from the data. So they said that further, a luminosity is higher than in 2016, many collisions overlap, and the events are more complex, requiring increasingly sophisticated reconstruction and analysis. So you need more granular data. You need more, very minute details of the data to really get at what they're trying to experiment for. And so to face these challenges, the computing infrastructure at large, and notably the storage systems, went through major updates and consolidation during the 2 years of long shutdown 1, where these upgrades enable the data center to cope with 73 petabytes of data received in 2016, and with the flow of data delivered so far in 2017, and that these upgrades also allowed the CERN to pass the challenging milestone of 200 petabytes of permanently archived data. Very, very cool. So yeah, I think we're going to end it there. It goes into talking about how, well, when you have that much data, the CERN Large Hadron Collider, and really the CERN data center, is sporting a 100 gigabit per second fiber optic circuit throughout the entire data center. And of course, it's only going to improve, as of course it's going to be expanded upon here in the coming years. So there you have it. Large Hadron Collider, who knew, makes a ton of data that needs stored. Okay. Now, why don't we talk about our favorite company here, and, well, that's Tesla. And there's a little bit of hyperbole going on here, but at the same time, it's still really, really cool. So this coming to us from Gizmodo, and really Gizmodo Australia, saying that all the details on Tesla's Australian battery. In this coming to us today, saying that Tesla is building the world's largest lithium-ion battery in South Australia, which is an installation 60% larger than any other large-scale battery energy storage system on Earth. And again, this is not one large, I do not want anyone picturing a giant AA battery in the middle of the Australian outback. No, this is a battery array. And if you're watching, you can see the, you can see the battery array there. And think of it just like, server racks, if you know them. If you don't, think, giant rectangular pods, maybe 8 feet tall, 4 feet wide, 8 feet deep, something like that. And each one of those is a battery. And of course, you string enough of them along in a series, and you have a serious battery. And in partnership with the South Australian government and French renewables company Neon, alongside the third stage of the Hornsdale wind farm, the power pack battery will farm up to 100 megawatts of capacity and provide 129 megawatt hours of energy generation in the region, load balancing the state's renewable energy generation and allowing emergency backup power if a shortfall in energy production is predicted. And really, this is the big thing. So, by the way, just looking over the articles, no way we're getting to all this, but this is the big thing about energy. It's that energy production really isn't a problem. Say what you want about renewables. They are up and coming: solar, wind, tidal, geothermal, nuclear, things like that. They're up and coming. They're getting more efficient, and they're probably going to meet our needs for a while to come. And of course, until then, natural gas will fill in the gaps. But the big problem facing electricity, facing storage grids and energy grids and things like that, isn't so much the need for electricity, at least in most places, but the need to balance it out. Because, in places where it's hot, of course, you're going to have people who are going to have air conditioners and things like that, on during the day. They're going to have fans, they're going to have computers, while they work. There's going to be lights and things like that. It's these fluctuations that are, semi-predictable, but are still fluctuations nonetheless. And power companies have to do a lot to make sure that they aren't feeding too much electricity into the grid than the grid needs at any given point. It's, it's not something that is an exact science. But one thing that obviously helps this is batteries. Think of it like your cell phone, where if you had it plugged directly into the wall, then it would kind of power up, power down as you need it. But because we have batteries, you have a storage, you have 100%, and as your day goes on, you can use as little or as much of that battery that you could need, and then when the battery runs low, you fill it back up. It helps with those fluctuations in a way that is really, really important for the future of energy sustainability. So that's where Tesla comes in. That's where batteries come in. And that the battery pack's 100 megawatt or 129 megawatt hour capacity will top the world in terms of its size, solidly beating out the world's current largest installation, by the way, which is also built of Tesla batteries. And they said that the project will use the Tesla PowerPack 2 commercial utility-grade battery system and will be more than 60% larger than the one in California. And by the way, all this, it will be installed at the Hornsdale Wind Farm, a string of wind turbines stretching 8 kilometers and 24 kilometers north of Jamestown in South Australia. That's right. And yeah, more so, it's going to be important for renewables because let's face it, the wind doesn't always blow, and it doesn't always blow at the it doesn't always go at the same consistency. So you have dips, you have increased power generation, you have decreased power generation, and those fluctuations alone are worth having batteries for. So they said that upon completion, by the end of this year, the system will be the largest lithium-ion battery storage project in the world and will provide power to more than 30,000 homes, which, by the way, approximately equal the amount of homes that lost power during the blackout period. So, yep, and that, of course, is also very important, because if there happens to be, for any reason, the grid goes down, well, these batteries will be able to keep the grid active, hopefully just long enough to get whatever issue resolved without the people actually losing power. Imagine if a hurricane came through and you never lost power, even though utility poles and utility lines are knocked out left and right. Yeah, imagine that you never lost power because of batteries. Although, of course, if utility lines get knocked out, what can you do? But still. So the consortium of Tesla and Neon will be known as the Hornsdale Power Reserve, and the company name registered with the ASIC 6 weeks ago. Blah, 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 blah. According to the South Australian government, Tesla and Neon's proposal was the best value for money of the 90 responses it received, and that Tesla has succeeded in driving down the cost of lithium-ion batteries by over 30%. Wow. And of course, the company was founded with the construction of its Gigafactory in Nevada, soon to celebrate its first year of production. So yeah, that's another thing kind of driving this, is that it finally makes sense cost-wise. If these batteries were to cost 30% more, there's a very good chance this kind of system would have never been built. So, yep, yeah, just kind of browsing over the article, and yeah, not really seeing anything else I really want to hit on. But yeah, Tesla, if you're a fan of the company, they have done it again. There you have it. So, all right. Speaking of sensationalist headlines, how about this one? This one coming to us from Engadget, and I think it's worded pretty poorly. But you may have heard about this, so we need to talk about it. And France, that's right, France plans to ban fossil fuel powered cars by 2040. And yeah, that's pretty poorly worded. We'll get into why. But Ecology Minister Nicolas Hulot is laying out his ambitious goals for France's renewable energy future. Obviously, Paris Climate Agreement, Paris and France seem to be very ambitious when it comes to, renewables and clean energy and things like that. So, France's ecology minister has laid out his plan that would see the nations effectively ban the sale of fossil fuel power vehicles by 2040. That's the important part. The title makes it sound like by 2040, there will be no gas-powered vehicles in France. Not the case. They will ban the sale of fossil fuel power vehicles. So there's still going to be fossil fuel vehicles on the road. It still will be for a long time. But after 2040, they're trying to force the scale, or at least they're trying to force the hand to tip towards electric vehicles. So, as Le Figaro adds, it's not clear how the country will enforce the transition, but Hulot says that the conditions are there, and that France doesn't have a bottomless sovereign wealth fund like Norway, for example, that it can use to finance a transition to cleaner energy. But what France does have in its favor is a sizable stake in both PSA, the owner of Puget and Citroën, and Renault. And as a consequence, it could exert plenty of pressure to some of the world's largest auto manufacturers to accelerate the process. So they're saying that through their influence in the car manufacturing process, they can say, hey, these markets are only going to want electric vehicles. So yeah, do that. And in addition, Hula is planning some sort of financial incentive as a lever to push buyers towards hybrids or electric vehicles. And those can include tax breaks or other subsidies, and of course, pollution and extra pollution tax on older vehicles. All right, so France will also establish itself at the forefront of the fight against climate change by instituting a carbon tax, which would be upwards of 100 euros per ton of carbon. And in addition, the country will stop issuing new licenses for oil exploration and make a bigger push for renewable energy. So yeah, and all of this is, all of this was kind of apparent by, of course, the Paris Climate Agreement. Paris is obviously being super aggressive on this one, but they're not going to be the only ones. We're going to see others who are probably going to take a more measured approach, but there's a lot to be said for getting your energy and your, and your power in the form of wind, solar, tidal, geothermal, things like that, things that you don't have to burn any kind of fossil fuels for. If you can run your entire country off of those sources, also including nuclear and things like that, but if you can, cut out carbon emissions, well, that's going to make clean, reliable energy that much more abundant for you and your businesses, for you and your citizens, for you and your government. I mean, electricity is the name of the game, and France is really trying to, or at least, and France is really trying to position itself, in a good spot. So, of course, all of this is just a plan, but given that France's current government was given a huge mandate by voters, it's hard to see where any opposition would come from. And it's not the first piece of good news this week, where Volvo has also pledged to stop producing vehicles that are run entirely on gasoline or diesel by 2019. Now, that does not mean that hybrids are out of the question. In fact, that's probably going to still be the majority of their sales, but strictly diesel or gas, vehicles from of course Volvo are out as of 2020. So yeah, things are moving quickly, and things are going to move even faster as prices come down and technology and efficiency comes up. It's only going to make sense. Like we're seeing highly subsidized, highly politicized pushes towards these technologies, but it's only a matter of time until you have, it's not a political matter at some point. It's not a business matter. It's just, it only makes sense by the numbers. And that point is coming here within the next couple of years. So, all right, we don't have time to get to these last few stories here on Computer America, but I just want to talk about what we're doing here and what we're going to be doing next week. So, everyone, for those of you who did not hear, Computer America is finally on iHeartRadio. So, of course, iHeart.com, check them out, and Computer America can be found there, with all of its episodes already uploaded, and very easily, very, very conveniently. And we know there's a huge audience, so we really enjoy the fact that we are there. Also, coming up next week on Computer America, let me just pull up the old list here. And coming up next week, we have companies such as Project FANchise, who was supposed to be on today. They'll be on next week. We have companies such as Social Judo, Sandy Burger, Pabby, and Ralph Bond himself next Friday. So all of that and more here on Computer America. Check it out, computeramerica.com, SoundCloud, IRN, Blog Talk Radio, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play. Wherever you want it, Computer America is there for you. And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Catch you next week. Bye-bye, everyone.